Hello. So nothing dropped. So I'm going to raise my bit rate. And still looks stable. Let me make sure that my microphone is set correctly. That should give us really nice sound. There she is. So, credit where credit's due. First time I had this really well presented to me was Eddie Obang. He's a business consultant. He did a TED Talk in like 2010. And with it, he gave a great analogy of a fluid flowing through a pipe. Suggest you go watch it. Eddie, Eddie Obang, Obeng. It's his TED Talk. When we have these moments of great transition, like it's been very hard to convince people to change what was working. And as we go through this moment of shifting tension, of moving goalposts, of things that we invest in shifting their placement in such a fundamental manner, you might invest in a new technology and have it get entirely leapfrogged. We're seeing a lot of that with electric cars. We're seeing it with computers. We've invested so much in AI, and it really has yet to do anything except for accelerate the decay. The reality is that we had to have 40, 50 years of widespread professional malfeasance to get to where we're at. You have people like Peter Thiel talking about, what is the next step and how he deals with people. He's just a weak man who doesn't believe that he can coexist in a way that encourages a responsible take. And it's a true thing because he's one of the thieves, one of the people who has stolen far too much from the rest of us. So no, he's not the leader, and he won't be a leader. No billionaire is a leader. They're just vicious people. But so how do we as humanity, 7 billion people, come to any sort of future, alliance, come together in a way where, we can rely on how we came together then for centuries into the future? That's where we have the motivation to cooperate with the system. It's supposed to be guaranteeing us something, not just endlessly challenging us and expecting us to be grateful for the bare act of life, which it wasn't given to us by them, it was fought for by others. And the system itself is supposed to augment and amplify it, and right now it's become a tax on life. That's why lost generations have been occurring. So if we're going into this moment, there is marginalizing speech. It's very easy to find and spot and call out, but you have to not have a cult that is trying to use it. The same way we don't want the KKK standing around talking smack, okay? We also don't want to see messages like the future is female. It's no different. Sure, you have a story for how you were done wrong and victimized. If the story has nothing to do with your direct life, like you can tell us your specific cases where people were able to really have such a dramatic impact on your life, as you're having on other people regularly with a hate narrative, truly with a hate narrative. You don't get to separate based on sex. You don't get to separate based on skin color. You don't get to separate based on species, in my opinion. That's not in the Constitution, but I don't separate on species. Mocha and her feelings matter. Giving that sort of respect to your pet actually involves lots of things, a lot more than just telling other people that you love them and giving treats to them every now and then. It involves attention. It involves understanding what they need, getting down to their level, and actually supporting the animal in their life. That is society, our coexistence. There's a little society Mocha and I have formed here in this little space, and she's getting a great deal, I tell you what. But I could use the company. Anyways, to actually make something functionally different, it's really common that as you try to avoid something, you run into it. If you have a common narrative about what you hate, you will become what you hate. That's just a truth of human nature, and you can see it when you golf. It's something that is very difficult. What people don't understand is that there's a huge raft of potential concerns in reality. And when anybody is forcing you onto their horizon, their raft, when they're telling you that yours is invalid, they are breaking level. If you do that in the background to anyone, you don't deserve to come along. Like, I don't want to be a part of your network. I don't care how many people are a part of it. There's nothing redeeming about this stuff. Why would you disconnect? Wow. Zero dropped frames, but it dropped the connection entirely. That's really weird. Anyways, I will just post it in YouTube as well, so anybody who cares can find my position, okay? Okay, we lost a few minutes. The entire recording will be up on YouTube. It's an ambition, really, an ambition that I think that kids deserve, a world where no one in their community is being unfairly marginalized and attacked. For some reason, I think civil rights are a human imperative. So I don't care how popular your hate speech is. There were times when the KKK's hate speech was popular, and we're getting closer to those times all the time because we have really bad faith wannabe civil rights activists that themselves are constantly violating the civil rights of other people in their vicinity. And if you are the one violating civil rights, doesn't care what your narrative is, there's no concern for your intention, and you may have gotten all your loser friends to tell you that that was what you were supposed to do. It makes no difference. I am telling you, we can detect it from a huge distance, and many networks have been long building away from these exact energies. The actually controlling networks, the ones that have military industrial connections, the ones that are part of infrastructure, construction. Where do you think besides culture it has made any gains? And even that has now triggered a reversal. These are failed civil rights movements that are still cancerous in our environment. They don't have to worry about keeping things level. They weren't ever capable of keeping things level. They looked into the abyss, and the abyss consumed them. They never even successfully took over. They put faith in a future that will never manifest. And that's why their leadership has got to be checked. Their leadership has got to understand that you can try to give people quote unquote civil rights, but if all you're doing is sabotaging their personal networking based on your hate narrative, you are not helping them. You might be able to steal and cheat a few government benefits, but you're not doing that as well as the corporations, are you? You're not doing that as well as the billionaires, are you? You will never be an oligarch. You made a bunch of low-level players just so they could get labeled and kicked around now. You have failed. Strategically, it's a failure. The truth hurts, it sucks, it gets the person who speaks it in trouble. But it's a failed movement with failed leaders. I'm not a part of it. I am one of the people that still uses language that targets and diminishes my contributions. Why would I join a group that when I walk in is already targeting and diminishing my contribution? And do I have to wait for them to say it to me? Isn't seeing them say it, use it in any capacity, plenty? If they're openly joking about their bigoted hate and their dismissal of men, why would I be there? Right? It's a broken backed idea that any man should ever be in a situation of diminished rights for submitting or for not submitting, right? Yeah, for not submitting. So you either submit and have no rights, or you don't submit and you get exiled. It's a cult. It's a hate group. Sorry, but it's a hate group. And it's okay. You guys can think that your team can win when you actively drive away every literate man. You're not going to get far. We got to build in a different way. And when we do it, ownership, property ownership, all these ideas have to be tied together. For the future, for the optimized community, for the place where I want to live, where we can really have the age of Aquarius and kids are not wondering how they're going to survive. They're wondering how they're going to enjoy a long, happy life. That's where I intend to go. And that's where I want to have kids. I'm 42. I got 10 years I could still have kids. But what's the point of having kids when I'm just feeding them into an evil empire that will just torture them until they turn into more abusers, more of a problem? They're not useful on the team, right? This is the thing you have to understand strategically. Your vote might be workable in a democracy like America had before the Supreme Court sold out and we had a fascist dictator running things. You can't even count on that right now. And where's your alarm? Where's your response? What are you doing to actually survive what could come? Are you imagining just even the real disruption that's coming for the lower classes once SNAP is gone? Once Medicare and Medicaid, all this is realigned. Many, many people on prescriptions that they can't even safely quit, that they can't afford. So this moment, right? One, there's no way anybody acting like I'm even a concern or a problem has their head so far up their ass, right? One, try me, take your best, bring them up here. Let's have a conversation about it. And let's include the scope of ethics, the whole scale of contracts that exist between two coexisting organisms, the idea of our country, the foundation of our social contract. All things that if you bothered to understand, you would know what a hate group is. You would understand when it's become a cult. And when there's a reaction to it that's so widespread, you would understand that you got to get away from both sides. You got to get away from both sides. This creates the opportunity for a third rail, a third option. We don't have to accept any divisive, hate-based language. We can celebrate every life from infancy. And when people do wrong, which is materially causing harm, we deal with it systemically. On the other hand, when people upset others, you may make personal sacrifices to avoid them, to do whatever. I just leave. I don't feel, I'm so gassed from when I was 20 that I don't feel the need to put up with them at any level, or to get, sugary compliments and company that I know is fair weather, that will expect me to repeat an ignorant slogan like the future is female. Democrats wonder why nobody has any patience for them anymore. I mean, it's of course no one has any patience for them. They're the worst. I'm kidding. I'm not even going to ever consider Republicans again. Right? And I haven't considered Republicans in a long time. I was very anti-Trump, but at the same time, I talked to groups and I coexisted with groups that regularly used hate language right in front of me that marginalized me. And I could have complained, but they never listened to me then either. And they won't listen to me. Hate groups struggle to listen, especially because they've done so much evil with those sayings. I don't care though, right? They're unemployable. I'm largely unemployable, right? We're all unemployable. The idea that we're all supposed to spend our time trying to keep others content or happy is not valid. I mean, it's not America. It's nothing like that. You respect their right to pursue that, but it's their job to pursue what they're going to pursue. What you only have so much right to do is interrupt their plans. And yeah, you want to break down America through the history across other more ancient ethics. We'll go there. That's not a problem. You want to talk about real power dynamics when you're a weakling, you're just a fool. If you have no actual power, if you've actually been using prejudice and hate dynamics to maneuver your network, you're all doomed. Everything you earned is gone, right? More than that in damages. Certainly. More than that in damages. The Nazis were not on camera. They didn't do it around cell phones. So we actually, Google knows what you did. Everybody knows what you did. And if you were just a vile person yourself who took your own disease and you put it on other people, then don't you deserve to be put in your place, checked, disrespected, and whatever smear you put on other people, shouldn't that be, that's damages that you owe them for, right? Slander. People just think they can never get caught. But the problem is when you actually carry it on online, you're feeding it into the system. You are not just caught, you are quite literally putting it in the only way that you will never be able to escape. So it's these politics, which this is how people deal with things in antiquity. It's how human beings and herd animals deal with things. It's game theory, right? Most people do not have a complete philosophy. They do not understand why they should or shouldn't do anything. And most bad players survive by convincing them to take stupid actions that limit their own lives. I have seen it over and over and over again. I just pity it. Because those people never improve their taste. They struggle to accept even themselves. They will never be able to give such a selfless attention as what comes from a truly mature, grown soul. And that's a goal that we all deserve to get. We got to get everybody to have Maslow's hierarchy together. The system has told me forever that I'm a communist because I try to take care of people and feed them and bring them the fundamentals. But I was never a communist. I was expressing the most effective business for the community I was a part of. And if they would have embraced it, they would be well fed. Their kids would not be worrying about these sorts of problems. But we're not there. And I want to have my kids, and I intend for my kids to have a better youth, a better, not as much rancor as what my peers' kids are dealing with, like not as much visceral stress and suffering every time they leave the house and on every channel, actual news they turn on. I intend to have some security at the end of it. Disconnected again. So, you can see beyond time if you get the education, and you can realize that even starting later, the idea that my kid would not be dealing with the absolute chaos of this moment is something I always intended, right? This is me actively protecting my kids by not impregnating a woman yet. This is very important. I mean, God, if it was a man and I've had the kid around like a functioning hate group, I don't want to feed another man to these people. God forbid he actually succumbs to it. It's but yeah, so we have the opportunity, and I'm not saying that I'm correct in any significant way. Um, I can only give my best effort, but I can tell you that, when I make a mistake and get checked, I own it. If people want to talk to me about anything I've ever done, I'm happy to have that conversation. In fact, I'm usually eager. They're usually too busy to give it the attention it deserves. They would much rather have a simple interpretation. And understanding that, I realize and I leave. If you want a simple interpretation, you never get anywhere near the truth. And especially now that we're all connected and the system is much more reactive, we've really actually, the classic ethics, the classic ideas of how we coexist, the civics that we washed out of the Western curriculum is actually critical. Once the person who you beefed with, like the person who you were beefing with in the 90s had a certain range of options of things that they could do to you. That range of options is now incredible. They can hire anybody from around the world to harass your online presence. It's a very different game. This all forces us, if we care, right? And my kids are not alive yet. Maybe I'll never have kids. But even the people I've helped take care of, this moment, if the kid's already there, God bless you, just take this moment very seriously. You have got to get rid of your overhead. You have got to find ways to lower what it costs for you to live right now. Unless you are independently wealthy, you have got to be working slowly because you can't change your life overnight. You've got to be working on improving. And hopefully I will get my thing built. And with my thing, people can come, hang out, and attenuate all the old world as they adopt the new world. Just a daily routine of grace and comfort that, you're not stressing yourself out. And just that is so far ahead of these people who are desperately trying to convince others that they have some idea what's happening when they're just an ignorant asshole, right? It's okay to be an ignorant asshole. It's okay to be a fucking dog. Just don't act like you're a fucking prophet when you're just full of shit. You don't act like you're intelligent when you can't learn calculus or physics. Don't act like you've tried and studied, like you understand anything if STEM is difficult to you, because STEM is the easier part. Really comprehending metaphors and things like that requires you fill in blanks. STEM, there's no blanks. We know what the physics is going to do 100% of the time. So our conversations need to be square with STEM, as well as with our actual contracts, as well as with our stated intentions. That's the hard part, is figuring out how to tie all these together for all the different perspectives that would be involved. Anybody who you leave out is going to try and sabotage it. To understand that this civil rights movement as we have it in America is the sabotage effort. They successfully sabotaged. They just never cared about building after, right? They never even had a position to really build after, because as I said, the power base is still the exact same people it was 50 years ago. The construction is still done by the same people, the military, industrial complex, same people. I'm a fan of men like Smedley Butler. War is a racket. But people are not understanding the technology and how much of a benefit it can be. I'm the guy talented enough to bring that technology to bear in your community today. I could be putting automation to work around your community today, taking work out of your hands, putting it in the hands of automation today. Nobody will pay me for that. The establishment thinks that would make me a communist. But we're just getting run circles around because no other nation is that ignorant. If I'm going to dedicate my life to building this, I just need it not to sell me down the river like my family did. Pretty easy. So don't act like I'm off base for not trusting or testing, nastiness in my environment. It's a polling process that is very important. I don't want people to have that much confidence in me. What's most important is when the time comes where I'm empowered, that at that moment, I am square and level, plumb. But yeah, so everybody who points fingers at anyone, right, is an issue. And as a minesweeper myself, which I truly am, the whole point is, if you can point a finger at me, I get to point one back at you. That I never feel the need to make that case. It's just a real way of saying exactly how important I think your thoughts are. If you make them important, wonderful. And if you wanted to learn calculus, I would help you. If you want to talk any topic, I'm there to talk about it. But you're talking with me, you're entering a continuum. That continuum is all things and nothing. Every idea flows into another when you are traveling perspectives, when you have a cosmopolitan understanding. You understand that even your own perspective is just one of many. So, it changes how you conclude. There's several would-be kings in my past that did terrible things to the community while talking about me. And there are lots of fools that listened to those people. Didn't even talk to me, but maneuvered based on rumors and gossip. That was never valid. That was, even taking part in it was the sin of slander. Appropriately, their networks withered. Not because of what I did. I didn't drive anyone away. But them talking about me and fixating on me is what caused the damage. Their hate. I am a virus that infects hate. I draw periodically. It's an algorithm. Still waiting to see if anybody's figured out any new games, and nobody has. Nothing new in so long. I mean, these are like adolescent dynamics. These kids act like they're hustlers. If I heard about it, you're not a hustler. Because you're competent and would not talk about it. Not until you had friends like mine that gave you a reason to represent in a very different way. think it's identifying or gasping as noise. I could be wrong, and I'm just announcing my own ambitions. I'm a pretty competent, capable player, not abusive of individuals. I'm just trying to avoid hate groups. Any group that abuses, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't care if it doesn't target me or it does. If it targets anyone, it's still bigots. The goal is everyone. The goal is complete victory in a sense of convincing everybody to give this thing a new try. That's what I wait for anyways. That's why I exist in the limbo. While I'm in limbo, I'm not here to fight anybody. If I find conflict, I just float on. That's always been my rule. That's it. The only way to keep me, which is why Nicole gets so many points, because she was the one who did that, is to yourself. Go against that hate group. And it's a hate group once it resolves to hate. Once it resolves to a judgment that is unfair. If you miss once, like what is your acceptability for slop? How many times are you allowed to miss entirely? How many examples do you need of completely missing the mark and being so tragically vile in your base operation that you destroy not only my family, but many families? That you actually cut off the means for material survival from your own community. Aren't you the one who's guilty? Do I have to fight you to save you? Is that actually what they're believing I should have done? Should not be a fight at any level. If it is a fight, we're not going to get very far. We will have too many political interests and people will destroy things to prove a point, which is typically what happens. And it's such a common thing now, which is fine. Just if you're part of that, or your friend is, you're not coming. Destroying things is not the problem. Destroying the wrong things is a very serious problem. And to even think about the anonymity of online, if you saw what happens to the room when I enter, you would know why it's just bullshit to front on you. Still very true. Everybody who goes, turns away and relegates themselves to the peanut gallery inflates my ego. Because you will always know the true influence of a person by their opposition. The true understanding of their influence will be answered by the scale of the opposition. It will be as entrenched as it feels like it needs to be. And entrenching is rare. Every group that acts like they saw me, that entrenched, lost. You can get in that trench. All I did was convince your dumbass to put yourself in the ground. You're proud of it. You saw something when you had your head in the ground, your ass up in the air. You thought I didn't notice. It was a script that everybody seems to follow. You choose where you're going to do it. If you're too afraid to talk to me about it, we're not friends. I'm not trying to be everybody's friend. I'm cutting through a wasted culture, advocating for a much more precise, much more valid expression of the American experiment. To answer bricks, not to join bricks. We will not be able to compete materially if it's not already that way. What I said a long time ago. So I don't know how deep the change is going to be. This all could be orchestrated by the exact same powers that always were. But I believe that in this disruption, some people may advocate for something like the Age of Aquarius. And as an automation engineer, I am very excited to coexist with the community, put machines in place, operate those machines, get them running to where my kids can be using them long after I'm dead. And they don't have to fucking cook. They don't have to fucking clean. And we don't got to condition them to these outdated bullshit traditions. But we're not going to be able to do that if we got idiots pretending to be righteous, making up stories so that they can at some point feel like they're actually capable. If you're actually capable, let's have the conversation. We'll find out right away. We can do it online. I will literally hand these people everything that they have to say. We'll go the distance, right? I do not fear a bit of debate, and I don't need to know what your state of conversation is now. I've got the classical, and I've hammered it into being in 40 years, and I've had to rely on it as I've navigated numerous dramas. I don't make it simple. That is a truth about me. But people who resent that are just simpletons. That's my only response for almost all of it. They chose not to have a real conversation about why. They chose not to understand my ultimatum. They chose to marginalize me by oversimplifying and applying a cartoonish idea. Great. It's very expensive to find the rotten apples, and we don't want any of the rotten apples. Anyways, here is the tarot, where we are on Twitch, at least for this moment. Cosmic Tarot, let's see if this conversation or anything about it resonates with the tarot deck. I'm going to cut it again. Eight of Pentacles reversed. Voided ambition, vanity, cupidity, exaction, usury. So the topic, first card, the person or thing's general environment at the time, the influence with which he is actuated all through. So usury is when people are proposing a debt and taking too much based on what they are suggesting is the debt load. You know what I mean? Like, that's usury is when you're like 20%, interest per day. It's too much interest. And that's what makes it a sin, is that it's too much interest. But really, some people believe any interest is usury. We are in an era of usury, truly. And anyways, Eight of Pentacles. Look at that again. Voided ambition. So why plans? Was there an ambition that was voided? Is the topic vanity? Is it people's self-image overwhelming the truth? Are they so concerned with how they look that they bend the truth? I think that's pretty close. Five of Wands reversed. trickery, contradiction, litigation, disputes. So the issue with vanity and all that is trickery, is the idea that maybe you have a bad bit of information that was fed to you in order to lead you to the wrong conclusion. Can you be sure about the information that you have about everything that went on? And if you choose to accept bigoted ideas, if you choose to prefer A over B because of your prejudice, you are the bigot. That trickery and everything, which I have watched happen all around me, is why I can't work with these people, right? That's why nobody who is a victim of their hate would ever choose to work with them. They have to abandon their literature. They have to abandon their, that's what I was saying. What I have to work with is the high priestess. Secrets, mystery, the future, as yet unrevealed. The woman who enters the querent, the if male, silence, tenacity, wisdom, science. I have had to work, and I still work largely with silence on these topics. And even if I do talk, it's not even received, is it? Right? These words are twisted very naturally into what would be said as hate, but in the same way that in Gaza, the Palestinian defense is not Israeli hate. Same sense when I'm talking about an active hate group, which is publicly spouting hate. I refuse the idea that any of us are meant to even be silent about it. It's actually, for me to be silent about it is to damn young men that I care about to the same sorts of horrific abuse that I've dealt with, the dehumanizing love bombing constantly. So maybe not wise to talk about, but no, it's actually very important to me that everybody justifies things based on what someone else has done. You don't read a book written by some half-wit and then act like you understand what's right and wrong. Two of Cups reversed is the past. False love, folly, misunderstanding. Queen of Wands, the highest that I can arrive at. A dark woman or countrywoman, friendly, chaste, loving, honorable. If the card beside her signifies a man, she is well disposed towards him. If a woman, she is interested in the querent. Also, love of money. Highest that I can come to is love of money. And a woman who's maybe interested in me. It says next to it. I don't know. I don't think the end of me has anything to do with it here, but okay, the future is the Ten of Swords reversed. Advantage, profit, success, favor, but none of these are permanent. Also, power and authority. King of Pentacles represents me in a reading. Valor, realizing intelligence, business, and normal intellectual aptitude, sometimes mathematical gifts and attainments of this kind, success in these paths. Oh no, let me do this. This didn't move anything, but this lets you see the cards better. Five of Pentacles, surrounding environment. It foretells material trouble above all, whether in the form illustrated, that is destitution, or otherwise. For some cartomancists, it is a card of love and lovers, wife, husband, friend, mistress. Also concordance, affinities. These alternatives cannot be harmonized. The Five of Pentacles is the environment around the King of Pentacles. The Four of Cups. Weariness, disgust, aversion, imaginary vexations, as if the wine of this world had caused satiety only. Another cup of wine, as if a fairy gift, is now offered him, but he sees no consolation therein. Theirs is also a card of blended pleasure. It's hopes and fears. Is that it would be a blended pleasure? Hope for it, fear for it. I mean, it's the idea that it's blended is just a realistic take on life. Samsara is a Buddhism thing. I agree. You okay, Mocha? Jeez. You're just sitting here overheating. And the Lovers reversed. Failure, foolish designs. Yep. Yeah, so I could be right, but because of the trickery in regards to people's sinful vanity, what I have to work with is actually just silence. And because all I have to work with is silence, the future is failure. I make my art to name that I see this failing leadership. And there's two alternatives, poverty and destitution, or synergy coming together. What I'm bringing, maybe you need it. I don't know. Reading doesn't necessarily say all that. But this is another coupling. Both of these, the Queen of Wands upright and the Five of Pentacles upright, have mentions of coupling. Lovers is definitely coupling. Reverse, though, it's this idea that it is a foolish design if we're building on vanity, that you have been tricked into believing you're supposed to carry on some self-policing of your own network. Like you are supposed to adopt an unlevel position yourself in order to fix historical injustices. It's just nonsense. You cannot understand the environment well enough to safely try to balance the system. So failure is where we'll go. And the best we get is a blended pleasure. No one's going to get the ideal ending. We're all going to get brought to a level we can share. Or we're going to be on the outside of the largest entity in Earth's history, the most coordinated, technologically empowered one that we are aware of, at least. 100%. It's always talking about it. And yes, the reason I push to have control is a temporary control. I don't want to be responsible for everything forever. I advocate for an eco village so other people can do the same and they can control theirs, right? And we can share experiments and maybe they find things that we miss, and we share ideas. We refine the process together. We find a real clear awareness of what human nature is, what people need to grow to be, righteous, good people. That's the future that we can put together now. And yeah, I will cause all sorts of hell. I will and have and will do again. Continue 100%. Breaking shit, if that's what it needs. Alan Watts has, at the beginning of this song, it's the whole malarkey. They ask him what he's learned. He says, I haven't learned that much. I just learned that you need to treat people well. And what does that mean? to treat people well. It's, well, if they don't treat you well to begin with, if they marginalize your true position, if they mischaracterize you and slander you, that is your call. If you want to work with them, it's just not American. It's just not proud. And I think the body knows that, and I think your future will prove that out. You cannot subsidize diseased life to be competition with literally the best, most magnificent examples that nature can produce. You either accept that or you lose out on evolution. And evolution is not just a biological process. There's an evolution that happens because we have good conversations. And there's an evolution just based on the balance of reality. There is a divine plumb, and we can tilt things, but it always comes back, and it's meant to be square. It's meant to be level. And I can't prove anything. And I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just saying, once they start using the AI on these analytics, they're going to know. Maybe I'll be on the outside. We could be busy right now, proving things out, helping people, giving people faith. We won't be doing that as long as we're coexisting with hate groups or hate speech. I don't need to fight with anybody to put a lot of pressure on everybody to avoid hate speech. All of it. I judge everyone who uses hate speech. I'm not sorry. It's work. It's work. The body works. Trying to build. The ideal out of the trees. City of lost children. Anyways, that's enough. Be good. Help out your family as best you can, build your team. And fight for your right to party.